Shalom and blessings to you all saints. Of course, this continues to be the day that Yahweh has made. We are encouraged to rejoice and to be glad in it, because shalom is always our portion. I will always say to you that it doesn't matter what you're going through, shalom is the portion of every saint. It is an instruction, it is a blessing, it is a command that you must be at peace at all times. I praise Yahweh for His faithfulness to us. His mercy, Scripture records, endures forever. Endure forever. His loving kindness, His tender mercies, His love for us, they are eternal in nature. Can you hear clearly and can you see clearly? If you can do both, please indicate, and then be kind enough to share the broadcast with someone who does not receive notification for whatever reason. We are here, and we are here to be encouraged, to be strengthened. We are here to be edified, which is to be built up in our most holy faith. Holy means different. The faith of every saint is different. The trust that every saint has is different from those of the world. The Church of Yeshua HaMashiach and the saints and the world, as a matter of fact, do not trust in the same manner. I bid you all shalom. The Church of Yeshua, the Messiah, and the world, including those in error, we do not trust the same way. And because our trust or our faith or our confidence happen to be different, we shall always have a different outlook as to how we deal with situations, how we deal with things that approach us, that can bring us pain, bring us heartache, bring us grief, because of the fact that we have trust, we have faith that is different. We are able to endure quite a bit. I bid you all shalom. Thank you for the feedback. I bid you all shalom. I bid you shalom. Judges chapter 9. Today, if you are single but dating, as they call it, dating, whatever that's supposed to mean, you are a bit more emotionally attached to someone else in the sense of opposite sex relationships. We don't have same sex relationships in the church. If you are closer to another individual of opposite sex, you would need to pay attention. If you are married, you definitely need to pay attention. If you were married, you deserve to give attention to this broadcast as well. If you interact with people on a social basis, which most of you have to do without even a choice, this broadcast may serve to help you if you face with certain social challenges in reference to interactions. I therefore bid you shalom. Thank you for sharing the broadcast if you've done so already. Judges 9 verse 16. This is where Uriel's son, his name is Gideon's son, was clarifying the point in reference to an analogy he had made, like a parable more or less, where he spoke about the olive tree being asked to rule other trees. And the olive refused. And the grape was asked to rule, and the grape refused. Then the thorn bush was asked to rule, and the thorn bush made a deal with them, that if you really want to bow to me, or if you come and bow to me, come under my shade, then I'll lead you. If not, let fire come out from the thorn bush and burn down the cedars of Lebanon. And he said, here's the point, verse 16. Have you been honest and straightforward in making Abimelech king? We're speaking today to being straightforward. Sanchez called the EMT. You need to, some people may need to do that this afternoon. Or if you're in the rebroadcast, if you are not subscribed yet, please subscribe to Nigel London TV, my YouTube channel. Those of you who follow me on YouTube because you don't want to be on Facebook, I post the broadcast there. You can subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can know when I've done another broadcast or provided one. Have you been honest? Have you been straightforward? Is the question. And the hashtag is do not deceive. Saints of Yahweh, there is actually a biblical instruction. There is actually a clear scriptural instruction to the church that prohibits saints from deceiving each other. There is actually a scripture that says that you must not deceive each other. In this aspect of deception, I'm addressing subtlety in expressing one's feelings. Have you been straightforward? To be straightforward means that you are clear. Now, I know many of you for years, probably up until today, you thought that to be straightforward meant that you are plain spoken. You just say what you want to say. And more often than not, it is interpreted to mean or to suggest that you don't care about how people feel. But being straightforward does not eliminate caring for an individual. It does not excuse you from being careful with how people feel. Actually, you're going to see this afternoon, or this moment, how many possibly of you have been quite deceptive in expressing how you feel. Shalom, Troy. Saints are encouraged to be straightforward because anything else speaks to being deceptive. So the first question I need to ask you is, why would some people have reason to? Why would some individuals have reason to not be blatantly clear or pellucid in what they have to say? Why? What could cause a saint to deliberately and purposefully twist a statement or a thought, thus making it difficult for the hearer or hearers to understand what you're saying? There are many spouses, many of you who date people. I told you, pay attention here. Shalom, Brother Brian and Sister Diane. Good to see you both. Pay attention. There are many spouses who have a difficult time with being clear in what they want to say. Let's speak to this, please. If one is asked about a certain matter, a certain situation, we get into the financial and everything else today, why can we not be straightforward? Meaning, whatever we say, we must be clear about it. If you do not want to be in somebody's company, you're dating them, you love them, whatever you say you do, say it. Plainly enough for the person to know exactly what you're saying, what you mean to say. Saints are not supposed to interact with each other in a manner that requires the need for consistent clarification of things that you say. If you are dating somebody, if you're married to someone, if you were married to somebody but you still have to interact with each other, there needs to be a very clear-cut channel of speaking to one another. You should never have a challenge with understanding each other, especially if the person who's speaking is making a deliberate effort to not be understood. I know that you're okay thus far, and I hope that you'll be okay by the time I'm finished. One thing that irks me, that really provokes me, is when a saint, an adult, is asked to say how they feel or to speak to a particular matter. And that person would spend 5, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever time it is. And when they get through speaking, you have not understood a word they said about this matter. That is not what is provocative. What is provoking? What is most provoking is that I know in many instances that they intentionally said it in that manner to protect whatever they think needed to be protected. You find this most often when you're dating individuals and you're having an intense discussion, or what you call your honest discussions. You want to project and to see how your minds are in reference to the future and what you plan to accomplish and what you would like to see in the future. Oh, and then certain questions would arise. For example, one of you may not like children. Whatever, I don't know how it happens, but it happens. I don't know how a saint could not like children. But you don't like children. But you like the man though. Or you like the woman though. But you don't want children. So the conversation arises. What do we do in reference to childbearing? For some of you, you cannot receive a straight answer up until today. So you may get responses such as, and I'm talking to you single young ones without babies here, but you don't like them, but you want them. Or you want the person to think that you do. So you may have responses such as, I like children, my siblings' children, I like my little cousins. I just want to get past the stage of, the pamper changing and the diaper changing and so on. I really don't like the diaper changing aspect of it. I don't like the screaming aspect of it. No, you do not like children, period. That's how you honestly feel. But you're not being straightforward. So the person who's hearing you, your potential spouse is hearing that you don't mind having children, but you just have some issues in reference to some of the chores that apply to children, when that is not anything close to what you really want to say. Then, as would have happened in so many instances, the baby arrives and you are always too tired, too sick, too stressed to be actively involved in dealing with your own child. Because you never liked children in the first place. And I'm speaking to male and female here, because some men do not want any children. What the issue is lies in your not being straightforward. You thought that if you had told the individual before you got married that you do not want to have any children, they would leave you because maybe they do want to have. So in order to preserve your spot in the person's life, you were not straightforward about how you felt. Sounds familiar? Then here you have, as Guyanese would say, poor apostle. Poor me, having to spend hours with two of y'all trying to speak about simple things regarding childbearing because you don't want to have any. So we have to labor about helping, and you should be helpful when you don't want to have. Because I cannot think of any adult who doesn't know that childbearing carries responsibilities. Nobody has to tell you that. You're old enough to understand it. But the minute I see couples in the church of Yeshua who are before me and they have to argue about who should help with the child, I know that you have a problem with you didn't want them. Whatever the reasons are, you need to say that you don't want them. And if the current person you're with wants, then maybe you're with the wrong person. Life should be that simple for you. You should not try, and this is not being straightforward here, you should never try to convince a person to have children if they don't want them. If they don't want them. Never try. I am telling you, listen to me. If you hear nothing else as they say, that's being cliche, but hear me today. Don't miss this part. Never try to convince an individual to want children if they don't want them. Because the truth is they cannot be convinced. The desire to bear a child is natural. Nobody has to be coerced into doing it or convinced that it's okay to have it. It's a normal, natural human feeling. You never try to convince your spouse to make a baby. You will have a very difficult time unless you intend to raise them by yourself, which shouldn't happen in the first place. Maybe I need to dwell on this a little bit to help some of you, because I can see that some of you are a bit uncomfortable, so let me keep you here for a minute. If you believe that you could just have a sperm or an egg and you fertilize it by intercourse, then the baby comes, and in your mind you're saying, I really want a child, so I will raise a child. I don't mind if the father is disengaged. I don't mind if the mother is not involved. I'll raise my child. Let me say this with you plainly, please. What you are doing is you are going to create, without thinking, the normalcy of dysfunction for the child. The child that you think you could raise with a father being present but disconnected, that child is going to grow learning that daddy concept is dysfunctional, non-existent, unimportant, irrelevant. Then here you come again now, because the child goes to school, and you now teachers have to ask to see the parents, because this child doesn't respect males. Do you know why? Because the child was taught that males are dysfunctional and useless. Mothers, you could be dysfunctional and useless too. If the husband has to do all the work, then the child grows up to see that women are just there doing nothing. The issue is not that you are lazy. The issue is you didn't want children. So when it comes to chores that relate to children, you don't want to do it because you never want a child in the first place. So the child grows up thinking that daddy is really a hard worker. No, mommy didn't want babies. Let's just cut to the chase here. Your mother didn't want any child, so your father is no hard worker. Your mother just didn't want you. So she sat around doing nothing where you're concerned. Never had an interest in your school games, never had an interest in your school meetings, never had an interest in anything to do with you because she didn't want a baby. Your father wanted it. So when you were hollering your lungs out, mommy didn't have a problem because she didn't want to have a baby. She was quick to take medication to dry up her breast milk just so you wouldn't suck it. Then you have allergies because you were raised on formula. So you can't smell 2 roses in the yard. You sneeze your lungs out. Do you know that generally they say the children who are not raised on breast milk have more allergies than those who have far less allergies, or more, I should say, allergies than those who were raised being entirely breastfed? The only thing I'm allergic to are stupid people. Anything else could pass by me. I eat anything I want. Now, I'm saying this to the extreme for you to see that being straightforward in the beginning would have saved you quite a bit of stress in your marriage. And some of you may need to have the conversation as soon as possible. Somebody said they never knew. Yes. Formula isn't good for children. Generally speaking, it's not good for babies. Baby should be on your breast for at least 6 to 7 months. Shamari and Shekinah never touched water on their lips, never touched any baby. We never had to buy a bottle for them because they never had it. They didn't know what porridge was or formula or anything of that nature. They just were on breast milk for 7 months. They do not suffer from allergies. Yes, you do. Right? So, were you straightforward? Were you straightforward? And that's just an example. Were you honest? Because being honest and being straightforward are very, very much connected. But at times it can be disconnected, where an individual, some of you telling a story, some say they were on breast for 3, some say on breast for, I was on breast for about 5 years, I think. I think I have a record. I have the world record. No, somebody beat me. But I used to come home from preschool and from grade 1.
Ridiculous.
And I had to be breastfed at lunch. Then mommy can go back to work.
Ridiculous. Not happening.
Some individuals are honest, hear me carefully, but they're not straightforward. They tell you the truth in such a complicated manner that you cannot understand what they want to say. Now, this is where some of you are going to get all trouble here, some of you here, because this is where intellectual capacity becomes used as an advantage over somebody. So one person knows that the other one cannot function intellectually on the same plane as they can. So they'll say things that are true, that are honest as a matter of fact. But the other party cannot understand what they're saying. Now that this one is crazy because it went viral. Like Jada Pickett or whatever her name is, Smith, who was telling me that you remember I got into the entanglement with whose fellow was? Austin. August. Remember I had an entanglement. What's an entanglement? And that's why I like Will Smith for that. What do you mean entanglement? What? Because if you're not sharp, you hear your spouse say that she was in an entanglement with somebody. You don't know what it means. You felt the person fighting. That's what I mean by intellectually trying to deceive somebody, whereby you're being honest, but the way you say things, your spouse can't understand what you're saying. Your intention is not to be straightforward. Your intention is just to be difficult and complicated. And we are not supposed to use intellect as a weapon against each other. I'm speaking to the kingdom here. The intention in having a conversation must be that you are going to speak. Wow. The intention is you're going to have a conversation that is so clear that there is no need for anybody to consistently ask you, what do you mean? What do you mean? Explain that. Be straightforward. Some of you may be dating somebody and or you may be married to somebody. Heaven help you if you're married. But you may be right, Apostle Lambert. Bill Clinton said he had an inappropriate relationship with Monica. Bill is a boss. Inappropriate. Right. You may be married. I hope that you're not married to the person. But your spouse may be bisexual. Here you have it. Competing with your man for a man. Or your woman for a woman. And they cannot be straightforward. They don't know how to say it to you in a straightforward manner. There's no need for clarity here. What Sanchez said, that what is to be done when one partner lacks comprehension or understanding. You went all the way to kindergarten and they still miss the flight. Listen, they cannot be that daft. Or if that happens, it means that your choice, your manner of screening people is very, very poor. Nobody becomes stupid overnight. So many of you may have missed the announcement that the person doesn't have sense because he has some other interest. And before I get back to the bisexual spouses, for me, and I always say had is past tense. I've had a lot of women, many females. And in talking to females for within 2 to 3 minutes, if that long, I could tell if you somebody could deal with or not, based on your ability to comprehend things. In some cases, you may say, "Oh, you look immaculate." What I mean? One time I hear that, bricks. Or you gorgeous. Ladies are normally gorgeous. Ladies are beautiful. Oh! In basic conversations, you can tell when someone is not in an intellectual space that can accommodate you. If you know that from the beginning, do not proceed. Somebody said my father never showed any interest in my brother and me. I understand why. Wow. So let's go back to the spouse part. So somebody may have a spouse who has the tendencies or desire to be bisexual. They're very close to somebody of the same sex and want to be with you. Instead of being straightforward, they would say, we're just extremely close. We interact on a different level. We share quite a few deep interests. That is not being straightforward. You, sir, want the man. But in all of this, what is important to note before it discourages some of you is that Yahweh's Spirit is faithful and He reveals things to you. So many times when a spouse tries to not be straightforward, you can see straight through them. And the issue with those of you who said are single is that you see it, but you do not want to accept it. Be careful of people. Be very, very wary of people who, when you ask simple questions, they cannot answer it. Oh, that's good. Pastor Mel said many haven't taken the time to practice the art of listening, so they miss the truth a person is saying about him or herself. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Be wary of people who cannot answer simple, straightforward questions. Do you want to be with me? That's a very simple question. Once you ask them something so straightforward, and they have to start telling you, you know that if I like dishes to be at the top shelf and not the middle shelf, and then you have to reverse the car in the garage, and I really like the bells hanging from where. When you have to go through that, I promise you the person doesn't want to be with you. So wisdom directs the wise. I always say that your wisdom directs the wise. If you're a wise person, you can already hear from the response or the lack of information in the response that the person doesn't want to be with you. But what this has to do with deception is that in the church, persons try their best to appear right rather than straightforward and plain. So they plan ahead. If they have to encounter leadership, if they have to go to a leader and have a conversation, they want to ensure that there's some hole in the armor where they can be told, okay, then you weren't wrong, this one was wrong. Be straightforward. And this is an issue in the church, where persons are not being very clear about what they want to say. Permit me to go deeper, please. Because some individuals in the church refuse to be straightforward with the person they're dealing with, but they could be straight with reporting to somebody else. Let's go there. When you are face to face with an individual, especially authority, and the person is saying to you, say how you feel. This is what I feel about this matter. They're correcting a behavior, they're addressing a behavior of yours, and you sit quietly and respectfully in the person's face. You don't say anything. When you ask a question now about how you feel about the matter, you present a deceptive response that is not straightforward. Such as, I have heard what you said to me. It makes a lot of sense. It's worthy of my consideration. You have not repented one word yet. Nothing but repentance. Nothing but accepting that you're wrong. All they go is all around the place in reference to presenting impressive speeches. And then comes the problem. In that they go and they find another person with whom they're more comfortable, then they're straightforward. Then they honestly express how they feel. I would like to announce to you, saints, that for those of you who do it, you're being dishonest. You are actually being deceptive. Because I may have to jump into the pond today to deal with some of y'all with this confidant business in the church. Because some of you don't have a limit when it comes to confidants. So let's go here for a minute. You're not supposed to interface with another saint. You're with another saint. Two y'all in each other's face. I wish I had two little bobbleheads to show you. You're with another saint in the person's face, having a conversation. You don't tell him how you feel, but you leave that conversation and you find, oh, this, let me see two different. So this is you, this is the person, the other saint. You are in the person's face having a conversation here. You leave the person. Find your confidant, your sister, your brother, your prayer partner, whatever you all want to call them. And you tell them everything about how you felt about this person here. You have been wrong to this saint. Totally wrong. You are entirely wrong. There is no gray area in this. Because you had a person here who's in the kingdom of Yahweh. You were right before them, given an opportunity to say how you felt. You didn't do it. You left the person to find this person that you could talk. That's how you said. I can tell them anything. You have a serious issue with trusting people. That's your problem. You are supposed to tell a saint how you feel, because the scripture dictates that you must be honest with one another. That's what scripture states. You must be honest with each other, not with a confidant. You must be honest in each other's faces then. Whenever something, if you're texting one another, whenever something presents itself that requires a conversation, you need to be honest when you have the opportunity to be so. Who? I can't see the other two words. Who is this confidant? That you have to tell them everything about another saint with whom you'd interacted. How does that become right? How? Let me express to you why I am so upset about even speaking about this matter. Because number one, you are saying of this person here that you, this person right here, this is you, that's a person. You saying to this individual that as a saint, they do not deserve honesty from you. That's what you say to them first of all. That this individual who has Yahweh's spirit, who has the same Father, the same immersion, the same faith as you do, the same immersion in water as you would have had, the same immersion in Yahweh's spirit as you would have had, this person here is not deserving of your honesty and your clarity of thought. What makes it 1,000,000 times worse is when this person is a leader. When you call this person sister, it's one thing. But when you call the person father, mommy, mom, daddy, dad, apostle, bishop, elder, pastor. That's why I'm happy that we're not having face-to-face interactions at this time in terms of church building right now. Because I'm just sick of some of the hypocrisy of saints who come to you. Hello, apostle. Hello, pastor. Hi, Pastor Reggie. Hi, Pastor Woodley. Hi, Bishop. Hi, Pastor this, whatever it is. And then, when you go for your Sunday eating, you can be clear about how you felt about the person in church. We have to learn how to speak to people in real time. So you may ask of me, is it okay, or when is it, or what should I do if I'm very angry and I don't want to say wrong things to the person? That's the only time you must take a moment to compose yourself, because Ruach HaKodesh produces out of you self-control. Shalom, Jesse. Remember, when Holy Spirit is in you, He produces self-control. You produce self-control based on Him being present. So you are able to compose yourself, to contain yourself, because it's a sister before you, it's a brother before you, so you contain, you restrain yourself. And here the part the most of y'all can't get until now. You only say that which is healthy and wholesome to your relationship. Nothing else. Which means you will be honest then. Because some of you think that saying nice things is wholesome to your relationship. No, saying what is honest is wholesome. and saying it in a clear, straightforward manner, that is wholesome. Can you be honest? Can you be wholesome in what you say? In how you express yourself? Why do we have to deal with this with saints in the church? If Regina, she's with me in studio, if Regina says something to you or does something to you that you don't like, listen to me, man. Listen to me. For real. Listen to me, please. And she is in your presence, say it to her. There is nobody else you're supposed to speak to about that. Matthew chapter 18 is very clear. You go to the person who's offended you. Nobody else. You don't go find some confidant. You find the person. That is the order. Let's go beyond that now. Once you found Regina and you make it known to Regina about what she would have done, if she is genuinely wrong, Regina repents and says, I'm sorry that happened. Regina doesn't say, if I've hurt you, because the person expressed that they've been hurt. She says, now, since I would have done this to you, and since that's what is before me, I am sorry. Hear me now. As long as Regina repents, you have nothing else to say to your confidant. You get that? You drop it. Because this is how gossip and I said and that one didn't say and that one said, that is why you have these circles in the church. You are not being straightforward with each other. If the person repents, the conversation is over and the matter is also over. It is dead. Because according to scripture, you would have won your brother. What else do you want? You would have won Regina because she said she's sorry. What else you could ask for? Why does somebody else have to know what you said to Regina? And I'm grateful for the grace to function in this manner. Once we speak about it and it's finished, I'm done with that. There's no report for somebody else and that one and that one. No, 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 no. You say it and you move on. That is called being straightforward. I have said this before, and this is quite relevant for me to reiterate. As a saint, you don't go making any subliminal Facebook and WhatsApp status posts and whatever else by anybody, and Instagram posts. You do not even risk it as a saint. It is entirely wrong. It is not only wrong, it's very immature of you. You don't go making any WhatsApp status, Facebook status, Instagram status. You ain't talked to the person yet. But here you are. Only the loyal can be trusted. What are you supposed to mean by that? You want to tell the person that they're not loyal. So you've gone on Facebook or WhatsApp or in a messenger or whatever you all use. And you decide to make it your status. Only trust the loyal. Only a few real ones. What do you mean by that as a saint? And when it's really bad, you go and take some heathen's post and try to make it doctrine. Demons in the church. Well, you're in it too, so what are you? What are you if you're in the church and you say demons in the church? Everybody in church is a demon, so you are a demon too. I'm speaking too fast. Let me slow down because I'm getting mad now. If you say that everyone in church is a demon, you are there too. So what are you? Now this is slow. Yes, now let me slow down because I'm really listen to me. This thing gets me very upset because Yahweh hates the tongue, the mouth, the attitude that causes division among brethren. It is not supposed to exist. Or discord. Melanie cook up body late, keep mine. Preserve my cook up. You shouldn't do that. And I always tell you, when you marry, you don't do certain things. When you get into marriage, you do not do certain things. Marriage, please type this. First thing to type. Marriage is for the mature. Marriage is for the mature. You don't be some little girl and want to be married to anybody. Grow up. Marriage is for the mature. You don't be a mature man and be sending subliminal messages by people on Facebook or WhatsApp, whatever else it is. Marriage is for the mature. If you cannot tell somebody how you feel, then be single. You hopping around the place, telling everyone except the person. And what is worse is when you can't tell your spouse how you feel. What are you doing? How can you not tell your spouse plainly about how you feel? Have you been honest? Have you been straightforward? Some of you, well, I hope you delivered from that. But when your spouse comes to you, you spiritual ones, and your spouse asks you a very straightforward question, or your girlfriend asks you a very straightforward question. No. You have to go in tongues. Because you don't want to be straightforward now. So you suddenly feel a spiritual moment upon you. Or you have to rebuke something. I see the devil behind this. I see the enemy. Satan, you wouldn't get your way today. I bind you. And all that kind of garbage instead of being absolutely straightforward. Oh, Nadia and she doing the same fun. I want to write down to yourself. But I figured it out. Why can't you just be straightforward? We don't have to have a prayer meeting when I ask you a question. Pray after you answer me. Do you want to spend time with me? The answer is straightforward. Yes, I do, or no, I do not. However, you young ones and some of you older ones can't say something so simple. I need some space, I need some time alone, I'll check you later, I'll call you later. Because you've committed yourself to having a manner of behavior that you cannot maintain. And that is where you need to be able to, or this is where you should be able to develop the skill to answer the question in a straightforward manner, and also have maturity to be able to say why you cannot do something. With respect, with honor, with love, and the person should receive the same. For example, do you want us to spend time together? Yes, I do. However, I cannot do this at the moment. Because this is where you have respect shown to the person. I would like to do this, but I cannot do it now because. Here's the other catch to that. If as an individual you're dating somebody or whatever it is, and you realize that this is always a position, this is a more frequent posture this person takes. You're dating, you're not married, and the person always has a reason why they cannot spend time with you, take note. Because when you get married, it may very well be the nature of the individual. Be straightforward. Life for me, as most of you can see, and some of you would say it, I addressed that last week and I may need to touch on it again this week. Life for me is very, very exhausting to the onlooker, because you see that I have so much to do. However, I understand the term priority. I try my best to make myself available at all cost. There's another term I understand too. It's called making time. That's what it's called. It's called making time. You are straightforward in that you are clear. I'm tired. That's straightforward. However, the person can see that you are making time for them, even though you are tired. How do y'all talk about long days? I always have a long day. My day never ends as far as I'm concerned. But you have to learn to make time. If a saint requires my attention, I give it to them as best as I can. As I said to you though, I do not commit myself to wasting time over a dog doesn't sneeze and a cat limping. I ain't got time for foolishness. But you learn from now to make time. You make time because if you are certainly industrious, you'll always be busy. Always. There are those who would know that I have very, very, very important meetings, sometimes weekly and everything else. What do? And I think Sancho can attest to this. Yeah, she's here. I would say to people I'm meeting with, straight up, at 9:30, 10 o'clock, listen, that's it. Meeting is adjourned. I have a family to deal with. I have so to do. I make that announcement to people I interact with, even in a secular environment. I am not going to commit my entire blood, my life, every drop of my being to a 24-hour day period because somebody wants to say, oh, yes, he was so committed and he's so nice. I don't do that. I am not going to do it. There is no task that I have to do in this life that would make me have zero time for my children and my family. Not me. That's good, Pastor Mel. They know how to make time, Apostle. Once someone or something is a priority, instinctively you make time. Exactly. It's a natural human response. That's my point. But can you be straightforward? So before we proceed, saints, let me say this to you. You need to create an environment in which all of you as saints can be straightforward. If it's your spouse you're with, create an environment in your home where you can be clear about what you want to say. If you're dating somebody, create the environment. Stop being hurt so easily. Because many times somebody likes you, as you all call it when you're young, And they have to be so careful about what they say because everything hurts you. My instruction to you, saints, is you must create an environment. Create the environment for each other to be straightforward. And I think with my father, and even with Apostle Lambert, the older men, I've learned this from them and I'll master it until I die. My father told me straight, he's over 70, he said he's too old to waste time. Honestly, Daddy tells you just how he feels in a very clear manner. You don't have to wonder what he's thinking if he's speaking to you. He's very clear, he's very direct, he ensures that what he's saying to you is most clear. There's no gray area in what he has to tell you. Because he said that he's old. You have time to commit his whole life to nonsense and explain 55 times what he has to say. And from that, I have pledged to be the same. Pastor Melcy's worse now, Lord help me. And that's how I deal with people. I'm very straightforward with people. I'm very clear what I have to say. Now watch this. And don't try it. Because if you don't have the grace, do not do it. Some of you have got very serious issues to say that, oh, Nigel London doesn't like people because how he speaks to them. No, you don't like being straightforward. If I look at an individual and I can see that you are being a donkey, which according to definition is a very stupid person, I will tell you that you're being a donkey. Because that's exactly what you are. I have been straightforward with the person. This is exactly what you're doing in this moment. Your behavior is that of a donkey. Your reasoning is that of a donkey. Yeshua did it. Messiah said to the scribes and Pharisees, you blind fools. Why did he say that? He's being straightforward with them. You need to know how you feel. You need to know how I feel about your behavior. So he was very, very clear and expressive. There wasn't anything gray. When he wanted to not reveal certain truth to people, then he went to being in the posture of speaking in parables. Now when you get to parables, you are not being straightforward. And this is where the lesson gets very, very difficult. Hopefully, for not all of you, but some of you. Messiah's disciples came to him and said to him, tell us, why do you speak to these people in parables? Why do you speak to them in stories that they can't understand? You remember that? Listen to what he said to them. It is for you to know. You who? The disciples who are chosen. The chosen ones never ever receive parables. They receive clear and direct teaching. The ones who were not chosen to know the truth, they were taught or received parables. Why must you talk to a saint in parables? Why must you speak to someone you love in a manner they can't understand? Why? We get to intimacy, so some of y'all young ones need to get this afternoon too. I ain't be too raw with y'all because Sunday afternoon some of y'all can't take it. You're too holy for me to talk to you straight on Sunday afternoon. But if you're a young married woman, your husband is with you, you want some. You want him to have a little bit because you feeling hot. You're feeling spicy, you want to have a little touch up here and there. Here you are in the house. You go, he's watching television. You walk past the TV, you're going back into the room. Walk past the TV to the kitchen, you pour something, you ensure it makes enough noise for him to hear it in the kitchen. You're going back into the room. You come and sit beside him or a little way from him in TV. What you watching? You see he's watching something because he can see what's on the screen. So he answers you, basketball. I know people watch basketball now, but you watching basketball. Watching basketball. Oh, you're going back inside. You get up, come outside again. You lock the door? Yes. Going back inside. You lock the cat is okay? Why you can't be straightforward? Then, heaven help you if he falls asleep now, because someone falls asleep on the couch. And he starts to snore. There you are and the man, touch him now. Imagine, all this time, I'm here before you. You can't see what I want? No. I saw what you want, which are answers. And Sanchez said, long story short, walk past TV naked. See that? And even then, be straight. Listen to me, man. You need to be straightforward. Especially young married ladies who grew up in church all your life. And you were taught in the church that sex is bad. But pastor got 75 children though. First lady, if you check her lingerie drawer, you'll see the same one who tells you, don't let him touch you, don't let him do that, don't. You grew up all your life in church thinking that sexual intimacy is so terrible. And since you are the most faithful sister in the church, you have now mastered the principle of no. So you can't even say what you want. And when you engage and your husband asks you, how does that feel? You can't talk because talking about sex is bad. It makes me feel uncomfortable. How does it feel? You can't even express yourself. Then tell me you telling people you talk in your head. You are not trained to be expressive. And you are mastering that art. It needs to stop. Because what you are producing is failure in your marriage. You need to learn. See, Brother Terrence, this is a whole sermon. Yeah, I know you've been present. There he is. Yes, sir. They need a whole 5-year message on this one, man. Learn to be straightforward. When you practice the art and you create the environment for being plain spoken and trained straightforward with spouses and people you love, life becomes easier for you. Because nobody can misread what you say easily. The tick is too much. Okay then, your husband is a happy camper. You need to be straightforward. And some of you are gone into, that's why I tell you, but these heathens teaching you all things, you've gone into this deep thing, but love language. What love language? What? Say what you want. Because you're reading everything except the truth. And you have people coming in the church now telling you young ones about love language. What's your love language? Tell the truth. That's your love language. My love language is when if you show me a rose, I get turned on. Who are you? Your garden? You some farm? Are you a botanist? Sanjay caught you off guard. See, I warned you all before now. Pastor Reddy said once I get off, he's being straightforward. That's it, son. That's my boy right there. That's it, Pastor Red. JJ, he be straightforward now. No gray areas in this. You don't need to behave yourself with this foolishness, man. You married for so long. You come on. The church has taught some of you, young ladies, the Jesus church, I should say, they've taught you how to fail as a wife. Honestly speaking, they have taught you to fail as a woman. That's what it did to you. Pastor Apostle Lambert, talk them straight. They have taught you to fail. Girlfriend Sandra say, come and collect me now. We're getting too much fire in the room. Then listen, saints. If you cannot be straightforward in your house, you're in trouble. You can't be straightforward with your spouse. No. Because in some instances, your boyfriend, your husband, as a matter of fact, your husband wasn't born in church like you. See, I wasn't born in church now. So I came raw. So, as a father, I ensure that my children will learn from the hardcore. You're not going to present yourself as some little failing church girl. Or somebody needs to type this now. Some lady needs to type this one right here. You can be, or you should be, I should say. You should be saved and expressive. And that's you married ones. You should be saved and expressive. That's called expressive, meaning you must be honest and straightforward. The church is teaching you to be saved in the context of how you appear. And they're selling you a notion that if you are expressive, then you're not saved. So who gave you all these emotions that you want to express with your spouse? Who? And expressiveness also, in this case, I'm speaking additionally here, to how you deal with each other in the church. Being saved doesn't mean that you cannot say how you feel. But say it in a manner that is not deceptive. Do not deliberately deceive people. When you look at, and I'm not saying you should do this, but I'm just telling you, when you look at what happened in the life of many, many, many great as they call them, I call them great deceivers. What do you find? Many of them wind up with prostitutes. Remember those situations? Why? Because prostitutes are very expressive. I never had one. I'm just saying what they say. But you could see it. And these old churchmen go with prostitutes. Why do they do that? Because in their mind or in their world, they never had expressive people. They needed expression. They couldn't find it in intimacy. So look where they end up. Oh, see? Melanie, you too much. Melanie said it straight. Exactly. The way that you relate to one another, saints, is critical. Finally, let's talk a little bit about another scenario. And this one you find, apart from sexual intimacy, this is the other one that has the most lies attached to it. Deception. And that is financial accountability. Financial accountability. People, oh my goodness. Saints, you have a difficulty dealing with each other when it comes to financial accountability. There are spouses who cannot have a straight story about $1 that you spent. Not even a nick. You cannot account for it because you want to be deceptive. You know exactly what you did, but you do not want to be straightforward in accounting for what you've done. That's a problem. We are supposed to be straightforward in every aspect of our lives. That is why, as a young married man, when I was very young, very, very, very young in marriage. How long have I been married for, Regina? How long? 20. Anyway. Right. I've been married for quite a while. So, You have to know, kill me, 20 something years. 1998, 21, 20 somebody, 24 years, just about. We are in the 24th year, as they say. Saints, from very early, I said to my wife that you do not need, hear me carefully, to give me any lengthy and more or less deceptive explanation of the money. If you have something to give to your mother, give it to your mother. If you have a conversation, I give it to my mother. Finished. If you cannot create that environment where your spouse can be straightforward with you in reference to accountability, you'll have a problem in reference to your finances. Don't come to me with shadows and symbols. If I have to buy something, this is what I've purchased. When it comes even to the church business, that is how I function. Pastor Mel and others, they are in reference to finance department, they know I function. I told you this before. It is audited because I believe in financial accountability. What was taken in? What was spent? Who spent it? We have to be accountable. This is important here. Because if you practice doing things with money, hear me carefully here, and you are offended whenever you ask to account for it, you are not going to be straightforward. You're going to be defensive. It is critical for you to develop being accountable, especially when it comes to finances. Pastor Mel said that's the attitude of a thief. Exactly. Saints, you must be straightforward. Faith is asking a question. This is for those who have joint account. Please advise. Sure, I would advise. If a saint has an account that's joint to their spouses, more than ever, you should be honest about that, because it doesn't speak to fairness. If one person is being diligent and another, for example, you have two cards, another is just having a ball. Then when the financial statements come, the bank statements come, somebody can't give a straight account as to what happened. And I don't understand why people do that. I can't remember. I don't know what they did with the money. I don't know. Then leave the card alone. If you can't give an account for what you've done, then you don't need a card. If the account is joint, you don't always have to call to ask to use it, unless there's some particular project that you have in mind. And I'm glad you raised the question, Favor. If you, Sister Riley, if you have got a project that you've agreed to, we are saving this money here to do this. That's two of you got together and agreed to that. If two individuals agree to that in reference to spouses, then there's no way that one person is supposed to go into the account and use the money or some of it for some other purpose and do not announce or have agreement. That is totally wrong. That is being disrespectful. It's being dishonest if you cannot give a straight account for it. Especially if when you ask, you get defensive. And I want to tell people, well, I use my money. What's your money? If it's a joint account, how it becomes your money? And because of that, for example, in our home, we would discuss, even the children and I, as young as they are, I teach my daughters especially to engage in discussions about plans. What are we going to do? This is what are you doing with this money? What do you plan to do? What's the project you have in mind? Because they're seeing from their father a man who's engaged in reference to planning with them. What does that do? So if you have money towards a particular venture, we discuss it. If you're going to use that money, you're supposed to give an announcement. Okay, I'm going to use this money for this purpose. It is not within the realm of the venture or the project we planned, but I plan to restore it at X time. Now that is called accountability. That's how you should deal with each other. You should be accountable. You must be accountable. Why should saints be offended? Why should saints be offended when people are speaking to their best interest in reference to financial accountability? What's the offense about? Somebody's asking a question. Yul is asking, what about the husband that don't bring the paycheck to the table and want to know what the wife did with hers? He is irresponsible. And that is a very unhealthy marriage. That wife, depends on how she views her husband, may want to give information for the sake of peace, but never of respect. In that case, most wives will answer the question, but only because the man may be abusive or she just wants to be at peace. So let me answer you and get over it. But if that woman knows that he cannot hit her, he cannot do anything that's forceful in reference to harming her in any way, or she doesn't care whether he stays or he goes, she'll tell him plainly, you spend your money, I'll spend mine, don't ask me any question. That's the general nature you get out of him. Because there's not that degree of clarity and openness. So saints, you should be very straightforward. Finally, some of you are not straightforward because you are so interested in sounding right that you say too much. Some of you are not straightforward because you are so interested in sounding right. You projecting in the person's head and thinking, if I say these things, then the person thinks I'm right. You are so interested in sounding right that you say too much. And that's a sign of arrogance. When you believe that you must always sound so right, that you speak so much, and everything in your mind, the person may have a question or something to say, here, you say some more. Because you don't want to sound wrong. Some of you are not straightforward because you are so interested in sounding right that you say too much. Learn to say that which is easily understood and say nothing more. Learn to say that which is easily understood and say nothing more. The scripture is clear to us that we must not deceive each other. We must be honest with one another. Messiah Yeshua, in dealing with the disciples, further said to them in interaction, one of you sitting here with me will betray me. He didn't say all of you, he said one of you. No, he didn't say which one. Everybody started wondering, is it me? They asked him, Lord, is it I? Am I the one? He said to them, whoever dips in this cup right here and eats, that's the person who do it. Yehuda did it. Yeshua said, whatever you have to do, go and do it quickly. What's the point? At that forum, he was very direct with them. You may say, why didn't he just come out and say to Yehuda, you will betray me? Because he was going to show all of them what their heart was like. He gave them a chance, and everybody said, Lord, is it I? Pastor, may get kicked off when you're commenting? What was that happening? When you're commenting? Sanchez, a question. Is choosing to stay silent a form of deception? Very good question. Excellent question. It is if you can answer honestly, but you do not want to do so for the sake of protecting something. In other words, if I asked you, did you remove this pin? You know the answer to the question, yes I did, or no I did not. If you know when you say yes, you'll be in trouble, and you don't answer, you're being deceptive. Because you can answer. In other cases, you may choose to be silent because silence prevents a war, not in reference to telling the truth. Could be silent about something. If an individual is a sister or brother in the church and you have an issue with the person, you don't be silent. You're not permitted to be silent. You are instructed to deal with the matter. If two saints have a problem, silence is not permitted. You must deal with the matter. Then you move on. Only when it is clarified and put to rest. But if you're in a relationship, for example, Sanchi, and you ask a question and you know that the discussion that it generates is useless, fruitless, futile, don't waste your time. And you can announce that. So although this does require accountable deterrence in some aspects of it, further discussions, this aspect of being straightforward, I want it to be as clear as possible, but precise, not too extensive, for you to just begin to practice the behavior. Say exactly how you feel in the most honest and straightforward, meaning clear way, not unkind, clear. I praise Yahweh for you, saints. Okay, Sancho said it. That's the one. The silent because answering is useless. Exactly. All right? We need some more discussions. We shall have them. But let us begin to practice being clear. Be straightforward. It doesn't mean you have to be unkind. You need to be clear. Bless you, Marsha. Thank you so much. Be very clear in what you have to say. Since I'm led, maybe I need to say this quickly before I go. And that's mainly for you married people, because for whatever reason I've been led to say it, so let me deal with it. You may be married and your spouse wants to be intimate with you, have sex relationship with you. You don't want to do it. Even that is a problem in reference to being straightforward. My father's commented, sorry daddy, you normally comment at the end. Inappropriate relationship in the church cannot be tolerated. Thank you, son, for pointing out the stumbling blocks that we are sometimes reluctant to address. We sometimes need a little nudge to get back on the right track. Exactly. Thank you, daddy. Thank you so much. So let me close with this, because this is important for you. You may perceive that your marriage is going so well and you don't want to have a fuss today. So your spouse wants to approach you. Even if you're dating, your boyfriend or girlfriend want to give you a little hug or whatever it is. You don't want that. The challenge in some cases is, how do I express that without being offensive? And because many people don't know how to do it, or you are taught again by church people that you just do whatever, regardless of how you feel, just do it. You begin to send signals to the spouse that you really don't want to do this. So you lay like a dead lizard, as they say, or you just go through the motions. And if somebody is sensitive, your spouse should be, they should be able to discern that you don't want to do this, because they get that vibe from you. They get that feeling from you. What is healthier is if you are able to honestly and in a straightforward manner, not being unkind, let your spouse know that you were not able to do this right now. You wouldn't like to do it now because you will not be able to give everything. You may be very exhausted. You may have a headache. So you say, ladies, not gonna say headache, but you may have a headache. The children were rough on you today. I don't know how men could tell their wife they don't want to, but that's another story. You guys are amazing. But for you men who have the ability to say you don't want to do it, kudos to you. Right. So if you don't know how to say to your spouse that you do not want to be engaged sexually, you can ruin interaction with them in that area. If you have a spouse who's too immature to accept and understand that sexual intimacy may not always be on the spouse's mind at the same time as yours, neither do you have to always force it, you will also have a problem. Because you must be mature enough to give people the right to not want to do things sometimes. See, there you go. Dear Sancha, but how could I not want to have intercourse with the man I love? Okay then, go ahead, Sanchi. It's possible for many reasons. And not wanting to have it doesn't mean that you despise the person. The right, Sancha, the best cure for headache, exactly. It is not that you despise you are repulsed by the spouse. Many things could happen, and people are wired differently. As Brother Terence said, this requires a whole broadcast. Why did I open this kind of worms? But just quickly, people have different hormonal, and this from science here, clocks. I'm trying to find another way to say it. The way your hormone functions, your system functions differently then. And because you're different in reference to how you function, that's why I always teach my sons and others, you don't ever approach this woman you have the same way that you had the other 10 if you've been around. You don't do that. It doesn't make any sense. Every individual is different. They react differently to stimuli, and you must respect that. Some people can generally not feel well. If you are not feeling well, apart from the headache, which is, and it's true, so biologically speaking, Lord, I put my daughters in trouble today. You married daughters, you're in trouble now. Biologically speaking, they've proven it, that an orgasm, not just sexual intercourse, Sancha, so correct it now, not just sex. The orgasm is what helps to alleviate headaches, not just sex. Because if he's boring and he's a waste of time, you get more headache. So it has to be the pleasure you get. Now, if your spouse is unable to give you their best, then what you should do is be respectful of it. And you're not less of a man if you accept and you understand your wife's position. You're actually more than an ordinary man, because you're respectful. Let me make this plain to you all. Respecting your spouse's desires is acceptable and right. Please know that. And note, respecting your spouse's desires is acceptable and right. Do not ever feel it because you married. I know the preachers teach you all kinds of foolishness. Don't think because you married to somebody you have the right to do whatever you want to this person, regardless of how they feel. That is not sound doctrine. How does it make sense to you for you to respect everybody else except the person you love so much? That requires 10 broadcasts, Sancha. You are supposed to respect your spouse's desires. How do you know there's a problem? If your spouse always, more often than not, has no desire for you, then there's a problem. And even that you should respect. Don't force yourself and fight anybody down. That's not for church people. Unless she likes it. But you shouldn't do it. Unless because some of you have to fight your husband too, because they I don't know about some of these men. But you shouldn't practice doing that. As a man, I see nothing pleasurable in forcing myself on a female. I know some of you could do it, but I don't see any pleasure in it. I believe that there should be mutual desires. Because to me, I think you get more of the person. Or out of the moment. Anyway, we talk about that in another broadcast. But I just wanted to touch on that with you. You should be also straightforward in expressing how you feel. Don't push your spouse away. Don't knock his hand off or her hand off and get off of me. That is not how you express yourself in being straightforward. You are clear. If you call them pumpkin pie, rose, apple, dumpling, whatever you call your spouse, babe, ba, ma, whatever it is, listen. I would really love to do this with you, but I cannot do it now because, and you offer an explanation. That's truthful and clear. You also make it your duty to not let that last long. Because it should be wanting them anyway. But that requires another broadcast because, hello, could be your spouse is not in the shape that it should be. And they've lost the appeal. Now this is when I'm upset. Instead of pumpkin pie, can I say pizza pie? Yes, you can. All right. Zarina, do you say that's why she keep getting headache? Your husband away for 2 months. See that? You need to find him. Find him, sis. Solve the problem. I love you all, saints, and I love interacting with you. It really is refreshing to me. And I bid you all shalom. Thank you so much. I appreciate this time with you. In the week, I'm putting my sons on guard. We shall be live on our broadcast discussing a certain topic. So all of the sons that I have in reference to Core Ministries International, the starting group, we shall have a discussion. All right? Pastor Reggie, Pastor Woods, and others will be there having a discussion in the week live because the saints need to hear from you and need to see how we interact in reference to certain matters. So I look forward to that. I bid you all shalom. Do well, saints. I'll be live on the People's Movement show at 8 p.m. Eastern Caribbean time. It is not a gospel show. It's my secular responsibility to serve in my nation. You're free to watch if you want to. Bye-bye. Shalom. Okay, Sanchez. One other thing that people should marry partners in their sex drive. You bet. Definitely, Sancha. And the question is asked, how do you know? Don't try to find it before. Because honesty could let you know. Bless you. What did your girlfriend say, Regina? Apostle, please let her know that there are other reasons for headaches. Right. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Love y'all. Bye-bye.